This is Mucker J here reporting for Total Biker FM. I'm very, very fortunate to have with me Rob Flynn from Machinehead, who's going to have a quick chat to us about the new album Unto the Locust. So, Rob, where did the inspiration behind Unto the Locust come from?
The inspiration behind Unto the Locust came from really just wanting to challenge ourselves and push ourselves as musicians and as artists. We had a lot of accolades and had some incredible moments with the Blackening, and we really just felt that we needed to make a record that wasn't the Blackening 2, that it could stand apart from that album and not get swallowed by the shadow of it, and be able to stand on its own. So we really ended up turning to, we started looking at bands like Judas Priest, like the Scorpions, bands like Rush, that had made great albums in their career, deep into their career. And, in the case of somebody like Judas Priest, an album like Screaming for Vengeance, or even an album that they made 10 years later, like Painkiller, where, they had allowed themselves to take in these new modern influences and allow it to seep into their music, and yet somehow retain what was the essence of that band. And as we kind of studied it, you started hearing about KK Downing and Glenn Tipton taking guitar lessons and learning how to shred and do these sweeping arpeggios, and that really inspired us, and it really took us thinking about that and where we wanted to go, and that's where the inspiration came from.
So which track or tracks are you most proud of off the album, and why?
The tracks that we're most proud of on the album, we're not really a band that does singles, so it's not really like a track-by-track thing. A lot of times for us, we look at an album very thematically, and we look at it even cinematically, where we look at it as a movie that is, there's a beginning, there's a middle, there's peaks and valleys, and there's an end. And so, we kind of look at it in a big picture, in a big context. So, I can see the songs, though, that, at least from, I'm here on a press tour right now, and when I think about all the reactions that have been really positive, a lot of people are zoning in on the songs Who We Are, a lot of people zoning in on the song Darkness Within. So that's really cool to hear, because both those songs are a little bit of the left field for us, something we did that's a little bit different.
The first track that people have been listening to is Locust. We've been playing that quite a lot here on Total Biker FM. Can you tell us a bit more about that song?
Yeah, the first song that we released for Unto the Locust was the song Locust, which is kind of the title track. It's about a type of being that comes into your life and has a similar effect of a swarm of locusts that come in and cause all this havoc and destruction and then leave you in the aftermath. And that being could be a friend, it could be a lover, it could be a government, it could be a religion. And we chose it as the title because it was a metaphor ultimately, and we loved that it was a metaphor. And so we could do things, with the cover and with the album that would have this insect creature and then tie that in thematically to the record. But ultimately the locust was, if you looked past the cover, which is literally a mutant locust, that it's actually means something else, and it is something else. It stands for something else. And so the duality of it is what we really liked about having that as the album title.
We've seen on the special edition of the album with the DVD, there's footage of your kids coming in and providing vocals on the closing track, Who Are We? Can you tell us whose idea that was, and did the kids have fun?
Yeah, on the DVD you can see the kids, our kids. It's Phil's son and my two sons and my engineer Juan's two daughters. And it was great to have him on there. When I wrote that riff, I was strumming the guitar and was writing those choruses, and I'd had those words, and I was singing those words in my head. And as I was playing, my kids were downstairs, and they were just going crazy and screaming and yelling, and they started singing. And just as they started singing, I could hear the same thing happen, and I was like, wow, how cool would it be to have the kids on there? So brought them in, demoed it, kind of took a page out of the Pink Floyd Another Brick in the Wall song, but rather than have it in this like a children's choir, because I didn't really hear it like a children's choir. I heard it more like kids in school singing a song where it's kind of messy and not really perfect, and we tried to keep that vibe in there, and they did really good. They had a lot of fun. They loved it. They love listening to the song now because, you know, they're both on it, and they're very proud of each other, and they dig it, and they actually like the song, which is cool because it's the first time in the history of in the history of the band that they like one of our songs.
How would you compare Unto the Locust to the Blackening?
You know, for us, Unto the Locust and the Blackening are very different records. They were written at very different times. I mean, when we wrote the Blackening, we started writing for it in August 2005, and we started writing Unto the Locust in May or June of 2010. So 5 years, a lot of life had happened in between those 5 years, and we had evolved as musicians. And I think for us, especially after touring the Blackening for so long, I mean, the Blackening was basically the peak of our abilities to that point. And then we went and toured it for 3 years, and that playing ability, you know, we stepped up our game. That ability became easy and easier and easier. And so when we went in to write, we were better players. We were more gelled as a unit, and it just took on a whole different level with Unto the Locust.
Rob, can you tell us a little bit about the artwork off the album? Heard there's a little interesting bit of a story about the artist in particular and how the idea come together.
The artist that we used for the Unto the Locust artwork is a UK-based artist named Paul Gerard. He actually does, his main gig is CG for Hollywood films. He does art basically as a hobby, and I happened to stumble across some of his art, and it just blew my head off. I loved it. I was so amazed by it, and it just had this kind of modern Geigerish feel, but, you know, a lot of color and shade, and he was able to really do these human elements in it that were super, super good. And so we contacted him and reached out, and he was into it. And the thing that was very appealing for us about it was the fact that he wasn't in the music industry, that he could do these, that he didn't have any idea what was going on with other bands, that he didn't have any idea what was going on with other artists. It was something that was very appealing to us, that he could operate in this way, kind of in his own little world and oblivious to what other people were doing. And so we hired him, and he killed it. He did an amazing job. Came up with about 8 different images for us throughout the package, and just very consistent and really bizarre. And it's, in my opinion, it's one of the best packages we've ever done. It's very unique and definitely different than anything that I've seen from any other band. So pretty stoked about that.
So you've produced every Machinehead album since Through the Ashes. How hard a decision was it to take the reins and be in charge from the start?
Yeah, I started producing the Machinehead albums in 2003 with Through the Ashes of Empires. And at first it was more of just kind of out of necessity, really. The normal guy that we like to use, Colin Richardson, wasn't available, and he was available to do the mix, but he wasn't available to do the recording of it. And so we started talking to some other guys, and there was just something about these other guys that just, they were going to put too much of their sound onto our sound. And, I ended up throwing my name out there. And I had been producing the band's demos since 1996, and so everybody was pretty used to me and the ways that I did things and recorded things anyway. So it wasn't that big of a step, and then everybody was really happy with it. They asked me to do the Blackening, and they asked me to do this one, and I mean, it's a lot of hats I got to wear. Got to kind of play psychologist from time to time, but they seem to be really happy with it, and they really wanted it, so that made me want to do it that much more.
Would you ever consider producing any other artist albums in the future?
Yeah, I'd consider producing other artists in the future. If I had the time, I mean, I'd do it with Machinehead more of a labor of love, but yeah, and I'd be down.
The Blackening had an extremely long touring cycle. Do you anticipate a similar length cycle this time round as well?
The Blackening was a very long tour cycle. It was 3 years, maybe the longest one ever by any band. But it was amazing. I mean, it was one of those things where just dream come true type of scenario, and we were so many opportunities and so many once in a lifetime things that happened. It was incredible, and I can't really see it happening again for that long. I do miss my kids a lot, and I miss my wife, and I just don't know if I just don't know if another situation like that would even present itself. I mean, that many tours and that many instances. So, who knows? But I would say probably we would stick to about the length that we normally do, which is still a hell of a long time. I mean, we toured for 20 months on Through the Ashes of Empires, which is a long freaking time. So I could see us doing that.
Coming back to the UK in December, playing Wembley Arena as well, aren't you, with DevilDriver? Are you looking forward to it?
Really looking forward to coming back to the UK. We got a huge package that we put together. And, we found with the Black Crusade that we did with Trivium and Dragon Force and Arch Enemy and Shadows Fall, that when you put these big packages together, that it's cool to draw from these different elements of metal. And so with this package, we got Bring Me the Horizon, we've got DevilDriver, we've got Darkest Hour, and everybody brings something a little bit different to the table, and it makes it an event. It's Machinehead World. It's this huge Machinehead event, and we're really into that. We learned a lot from it, and we're super excited. Biggest dates we've ever played. We're playing Wembley Arena, which is just unbelievable. So we're so excited to get back here. We cannot wait. It's going to be amazing.
My final question for you then, Rob. Have you seen the petition that's been started online for Machinehead to headline Download 2012? And what's your thoughts on this?
I did see the Download petition that asks us to be headlining Download, which is pretty freaking... I mean, it was kind of just one of those things you just laughed at, like, what? There's a petition for us to headline Download? I mean, it's amazing. And if the world wants that to happen, and if the promoters want that to happen, it's not really up to us, it's up to them. So if they want that to happen, we'll be more than ready. I mean, we headlined Wacken Festival last year to 80,000 people and killed it. It was awesome. So I definitely know we can do it and we're capable, but it's not really up to us. And if the gods decide that that's the way it should go, then so be it.